Hey, Greg, I do have to leave at 2:15 for a 3 o'clock appointment in Myrtle Beach.
Good luck with that.
This could be the longest meeting ever.
That's possible. Okay, we are up to the item on the agenda that is found on page 17 in the agenda packet. The item referring to rescue rafts, buoys, and rings, and John is going to lead us in that discussion.
All right. This topic was discussed several years ago. No action was taken, but there's been some incidents this past summer when citizens did assist swimmers in trouble, and a suggestion was made that we have some type of rescue devices on beach access ways that citizens could use to assist. Our fire chief, Paul Hassenmeyer, has been examining the issue and is going to report on kind of rescue gear options, potential placement locations, costs, liabilities, other factors, so that we can discuss and determine is there something we want to do.
And real quick before Paul starts, I'd like to mention that Grady has also taken a look at this and sent an article that I just didn't have time to print out about North Topsail Beach having done something similar, so.
Thank you.
And I'm good with it.
Good, thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, it's, so I have looked at different throwable devices, rescue devices, and through my travels and many of yours, I know you've probably seen different throw rings on cruise ships, beaches, and piers, and all around the country. And in reality, my idea is that Good Samaritans, like Mr. Corbett mentioned last year, there was a couple instances of beachgoers, Good Samaritans, that tried to help somebody in need. So Good Samaritans, in my experience, they always act to help people in a time of need. Publicly accessible, throwable rescue devices would provide Good Samaritans an opportunity to help a distressed swimmer without adding additional victims, which, from the fire department's perspective, would be a good thing. Less victims, the better. This same type of conversation, when I was in Northern Ohio, we had the same type of conversation at the beaches on the southern shore of Lake Erie. The town there ended up putting throwable devices at the beaches, and they were there for Good Samaritans. So it worked out well, and they were readily available. I've ran the beach. I've counted beach accesses. And concurred with Dustin, there's 35 beach accesses. We might want to look at, potentially, do we add a couple extra around the pier, maybe, if that's your wish, or is one at every beach access the idea, or every other? That's certainly open for your discussion and consideration, and Mr. Richardson has the town's legal opinion on it. So I can answer any other questions.
So what specifically are you talking about as a throwable device, and how much do they cost?
Yeah, some of there's all kinds of different throwable devices. There's some that we have on the fire and rescue side of things, but an orange ring, I'm thinking that you can hang very easily at the access points.
Would you have one at every exit on the garbage, or make its own individual pole?
Probably there and I think we'll kind of consult with Dustin a little bit further to make sure it doesn't interfere with the trash cans and stuff he's got already there, but probably already a pole that's there.
We talked about absolutely no Sunset Beach name on it, because that would be a souvenir.
Yeah, I wouldn't put Sunset Beach on it.
Paul, this appears to be, to me, a very prudent measure. Life is life.
Sure.
Can't put a price tag on it. And to me, the cost of this would appear to be maybe a one-time event, and to me, it would probably be minimal, in which I hope the council will pursue. Now, you're applying for a grant, I believe.
Yeah, there,
A grant.
The AFG, that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember the precise title. But with that grant, would this expense be covered by that grant?
no, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to know. That's fine.
I just wanted to add, and I know none of you probably have the benefit of the article that was sent to Hiram just yesterday afternoon. But when I say I'm good with it, I'm good with it in line with or substantially similar to what North Topsail Beach has done. There's some wording that's in there, and they might have a different style float. I mean, I think theirs is more of a tube type of float versus the circular. I think the circular would be more effective personally, but what do I know? But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
they had some good ideas that they've implemented with this program at Topsail Beach. The Rotary got involved in doing it, and it's a neat idea. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
I-
it makes
Mr. Mayor.
perfect sense.
And a lot of that can go, the details Mr. Richards talking about, it can be fleshed out if we decide to move forward, but specifically, I mean, you know, placing on there the notification that you should call 911 actually on the device, so that it reminds people, hey, you're grabbing this, but go ahead and notify as well. And, you know, not to have some type of educational component, so you don't expect something to always be there. Someone might have used it already. It could have been stolen. There's just, you know, the expectation that it's not always going to be there also needs to be implanted in people's heads. Things happen.
Yeah.
And we can't be everywhere at one time, and neither can the equipment. So there's a few things that be ironed out in the program, should y'all wish to proceed moving forward with it, that doesn't really need to be in the motion to proceed with it.
And one more question, just to be very clear. Do we incur any additional or excessive liability by providing life-saving devices? Or those types of devices, put it that way?
so my summary opinion on that is no. That's that's what I was asked to look at by the chief and by Hiram. Unfortunately, in our society, if someone wants to sue for something, they'll find somebody to come up with an idea of how to sue. But I don't believe it increases your liability at all, particularly considering that this is a swim at your own risk beach. There's no lifeguards posted. This is just an additional potential life-saving device. And I think you're going to have those situations where vandalism is going to happen. People are going to steal it. You're just going to have to keep up with and monitor the inventory of the life-saving devices. But, you know, the beach accesses are pretty close to each other. You would think that if one's missing, there would be one nearby that someone might be able to get to. So I don't believe there's any increase in liability.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Please, John, real quick.
Sure.
Paul, are we you're gonna come back with a cost on this? Before we make the motion or after we make the motion?
I think the cost will probably be in the, we'll iron that out in the budget session. We can start looking into it and making sure we have a good firm cost. That generally what I've seen for cost with a hook to mount it on a post and a ring, less than $100 a piece is what I've seen generally. But
So
that-
35 access ways and then a couple more around the pier, something like that, we're still talking in the range of $4,000.
Yeah, that's noise.
Ballpark.
That's noise.
I could be wrong. I think the chief was looking for direction of whether this is something that you would like him to report back on once he gets the meat of the details, the cost and.
Yeah, it has been ascertained, I mean, we can go ahead and do this program now, which would involve a budget amendment, or we could plan for it through the budget process and have it be implemented come July. I know that the probably prevailing attitude would be to have it done before the season, and that's not a problem, but the cost at this point, I'd rather iron out the policies of what we're gonna do, because that's gonna determine if we're gonna put one at every access, every other access, or we're gonna do on the garbage poles, that's gonna change the costs. So coming back to the cost right now before we determine the logistics, I don't really see that as practical.
Well,
Okay, so,
Hiram, would it be prudent just to put in the motion, just so that we, not to exceed 10,000, so that we can do the research, see what it costs, so that we're not wasting time, that we can.
I think just a motion to go ahead and proceed with development of the program, and then come back to y'all at the end of that development for you to approve the program would be fine.
John, can you make that?
so,
No,
so.
not, but we're not gonna wait till the
Yeah.
budget process.
No, if you go ahead and produce it now, we'll try to get it done for you before February.
Okay, so I make a motion that we proceed with this program. Some of the specific cost details to be worked out, to be put in place for this summer season. And looking at a device at each access way and additional devices in our emergency walkway areas and around the pier and gazebo area.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Paul, we'll keep you there for the Beach Patrol season review on pages 18 to 20 in your packet.
All right, so on those pages 18 through 20 in your packet, I prepared, what I did quite extensively over the last month or so, month and a half, is I drilled down on Deputy Chief Childers, and I gave him a pretty extensive interview several times and asked him a whole lot of questions about Beach Patrol, some challenges to get a good understanding. I also talked to multiple firefighters and officers, several of the Beach Patrol folks, and I've had questions and comments from the community at large about Beach Patrol. So I've taken great initiative to try to get some good insight about Beach Patrol, the things that went well, the things that are challenging, and how we make them better going into the summer of 2019. So that's my goal. I'm going to spend a couple minutes just reviewing the document that you have at hand, and then I will go over the recommendations at the end to provide a little bit of insight of where I think we can go together, and you can give me a little guidance on those things if you wish, and we're already have a lot of things in the works. But the first, maybe the second bullet there is the daily Beach Patrol staffing number directive that Deputy Chief Childers told me that was tried or strived for during this past summer. Now, as you see in the next bulleted item, number of hours Beach Patrol spent on the Strand, and then the following one, the amount of hours that Deputy Chief Childers, and then the number that was supplemented by fire department personnel. Those numbers don't total up to the required numbers of hours that the directive had. So to have staff, 2 staff during those the early part of the season, 4 staff on the beach during the middle part of the season, and then 2 at the end of the season, was 5,208 hours of time. And we didn't have that, even with using the fire department to supplement Beach Patrol. We only staffed the beach 3,767 hours, or roughly just a bit over. So one of the challenges, the biggest challenges I see, is our staffing matrix of Beach Patrol, and how we can improve the Beach Patrol staffing creatively, and we've already started looking at some potential different options, and I think we'll be successful moving into this summer. But the other challenge is that several times those hours of the fire department employees ended up supplementing Beach Patrol. That's a challenge because they came off the fire truck to go to the beach. So we robbed Peter to pay Paul by taking them off the fire truck, putting them on the beach. So then we were down a staff member in the fire truck who first responds to EMS and fire related things. So if there's the biggest challenge of the whole thing to me is making sure we improve that going into this summer. Part of that is recruiting some seasonal employees, and maybe looking at a firefighter live-in program that I'm familiar with in different areas, and looking at staffing the beach patrol supervisor position that wasn't staffed last year. So those things are in the recommendation, but that's one of the biggest challenges overall. And I think other challenges you might have noticed or bring up relate back to that, where the number of staff we had on the beach and available to take care of everything. You'll see some miscellaneous expenses, the total salaries, uniform items, supplies. The only thing that's not on here is some other maintenance and purchasing of UTVs and vehicles, the maintenance component of that. Currently, we have 2 UTVs that are getting routine maintenance. One of them is only a year old and had some motor issues already that's getting taken care of. So we currently have those 2 UTVs and a 4-wheeler. So essentially, we have to look real hard at our budget and what we have available, and be looking for how we're going to deal with a breakdown of one of those 2 primary UTVs. So that type of stuff is in the works for sure, and be working with Hiram and Tara and make sure it's taken care of. You'll see some numbers about EMS related incidents on the beach and rescues, different ambulance transports from the Strand itself. Now, you'll see the asterisk on page 19 of the packet. The data from Brunswick County EMS we have to note that these numbers indicate Beach Strand as the address in the report. There was multiple times, I'm guessing, that people called 911 from a residence, and the call originated at the beach. So that data they couldn't provide, and I think that's going to be pretty hard to capture overall, even moving forward. The number of citations issued by the police department and the beach patrol are on the 3rd page of this packet. I know Chief Claymore, if you have any questions for him too.
Well, the only question I have about the $8,000 in tickets, does that go directly to the Sunset Beach, or is that part of does the county get a percentage of that? Chief, do you know that?
That goes.
Yes. Comes here, okay, stays here, okay, great.
But that 8,000 is both police and fire combined citations.
So that's what we collected, or is that the amount of tickets we were written, collected or not?
Page 20, Chief. Lisa, do we pursue the people who do not find their, pay their fines, or just,
The column that says total paid.
yeah?
Well, then, how many were unpaid?
We don't have that data.
It says on page 19 that they don't have that information.
Nope. That's all right. Thank you, Jen.
All right, moving forward, a couple other things. So that's kind of the review of data and staffing. That we can work on and will improve overall and provide the best service that we can.
Hey,
Some-
Paul, real quick, since you talk about in the recommendations to review hiring and staffing and robust recruitment campaign, did you talk to anybody from Beach Patrol over the summer to ask them how they felt about the work hours, the conditions, the staffing? I mean, have you done exit interviews or anything like that with their?
Yeah, so Richard has done some of that already. We've had, I think, 6, I think the number's up to 6 or 7 that of past Beach Patrol employees that want to come back again and help us out in varying capacities. So part of that is going to be reaching out to everybody that was involved last year. I've also started discussion with some of the volunteer firefighters if they have any interest in helping out at the beach. So there's some potential there. Also, I talked to Richard and reviewed some of the advertising for Beach Patrol, the part-time seasonal positions, and it didn't start until March last year, and it wasn't on a broad scale. So I'm hoping to open the scale up, recruit from a larger pool, and start before March.
Just a person who works on the beach, what's their hour rate?
Last year,
$12 an hour. 14, yeah,
14 for what?
comebacks. People came back.
Okay. And how about a fire department person working the beach? How much is that per hour?
their hourly rate,
Whatever their base pay is.
yeah, I
Just
don't
per
have their
employee.
hourly rates. It's different for each guy in front of
So
me.
Paul, it should be cheaper to hire someone strictly for the beach and not use our fire department.
Yeah, it gets challenging if we start paying beach patrol employees more than a full-time employee, so there's some dynamics there we certainly have to keep in mind. But, you know, some different staffing matrices certainly we're
Would you
working.
rather have beach patrol people, so your fire department's fully manned all the time?
Absolutely,
Okay. So that will be your goal, is to go after
Yes.
beach patrol? Okay.
yep.
Paul, if I may, I find this report very revealing, and it's a good report. Just so that you have a little understanding of the history, at one time we would have citizens be the ambassadors of Sunset Beach. They were on the beach patrol. Then we've had, I believe, several drownings. And the fire department took the lead to improve the quality of our beach patrol, because we don't have lifeguards. And they've expanded the services and bought equipment and those kinds of things. I noticed, and I'm just curious, I just have a couple of questions and then a couple of comments. I noticed that the fire department, that we've expended $15,000. Is that overtime? Is that overtime that we are paying the fire staff to supplement the staffing for the beach patrol?
Not always overtime. Most of the time, it's taking them off of the fire truck,
And putting them on
put
the
them
beach?
on the beach. So basically, we
So
took
you're
their,
juggling.
we basically took their salary for the time they got
Okay.
pulled off the fire truck, put on the beach, their
Yeah.
salary, and put it
Yeah,
in that
and
total.
the other question that I have, I noticed that the assistant fire chief spends about 20 hours a week down there during the summer. To me, that is not a best use of that kind of resource. That's just my opinion. I don't think it is. And it seems to indicate that there's problems to me. Now, unfortunately, our beach is overcrowded, and it's getting more congested each year. I can only assume of some of the causes. And one of the causes is we have a lot of day trippers. We are the only beach in this area, and I don't want to make this an emotional issue. We are the only beach in this area that allows cabanas. It brings in a vast many people who we used to, that we classify as day trippers. And it creates a lot of congestion on the beach. Cabanas create a lot of congestion on the beach. There are even people who rent in Ocean Isle come to Sunset Beach because they can use cabanas. So there's a lot of traffic on our beach. And what I'm trying to establish, and if you can, because I don't have any information, what would be the financial and the operational impact of this town if there were no beach, if the town, like other communities, ban cabanas? Can someone answer that question? And,
Can, Mr. Mayor,
I don't,
whoa.
can we stay on point here?
I was going to say, that's not really a question for the fire chief.
Is that a question to you?
It could be, but we'd have to do the research on that, but
No, no,
he's not going to have what that's going to do to the economic impact of rentals and stuff.
I raised the question.
It's also on the agenda, Rick.
Well,
Why don't we do it on the, during the cabana? case?
let me interject here. I have asked Paul prior to the meeting if he had observations about cabanas. Those observations, I think, fall best in the next subject matter and may give us guidance there. So perhaps, Rich, we can hold that off until we get to the cabana item. Excuse me.
No. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My concern is that this has been a long meeting, and what I would like to try to do is to get this information. I would like the town and the chief to sit together and give us a candid, formal report so that we can study it and make the best decision for this town. In the past, the fire department has been consumed by cabana issues. The cabana issues in the ordinances are not consistently followed, and there's a lot of mayhem out there. Now, I want to hear from them. Years ago, the fire department said it would be a blessing if we banned cabanas. I don't know.
I don't
This
believe
is-
that's
ho-
true,
Let me finish, please.
but you're not stating facts. You're supposing
You don't know what you're
things.
talking about, Mr. Nurin.
What-
Let me
Wait,
finish.
wait. Hold up here.
Facts.
Rich, specify what it is you are asking the town to do.
I'm asking the town to do a financial impact concerning these figures and coverage if the town did not allow cabanas.
All right, now,
That's-
hold up at that point.
That's one.
Is that
point.
something that you would be able to do in
We wouldn't be able to do that in a year.
this time
I
of
mean,
year?
I'm sorry, there's just no way to take into account what cabanas do economically for this place, because not everybody uses the beach with cabanas, not everybody comes to Sunset Beach for cabanas, not everybody sells cabanas, not everybody rents cabanas. I mean, there's too many variables for staff to be able to put together an analysis like that. I mean, and then correlate it to time on the beach that the fire department spends doing stuff with cabanas. I mean, they don't break out their statistics on, well, we spent 5 minutes arguing with this homeowner, we spent an hour trying to get this person to stop setting up cabanas. That's not broken out anywhere. So there's no way to track or correlate or even find any kind of loose connection in the data.
It has been
Mr. Mayor?
said
I haven't
previously.
been able to speak yet.
It has been said, Mr. Mayor, I understand this is an emotional issue. It has been for 11 years. But it has been said by the previous fire department administration that they spend over approximately 50% of their time.
That's not true, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, let's not get into the details of the study. John,
We have asked Fire Chief to come and report, and he has a series of recommendations based on the report that he's made. I think we ought to let him make the recommendations and talk through that. Our next topic is cabanas, and we could go into that when we get to cabanas.
okay, I mean, that seems like a reasonable recommendation, and will allow you to sort of keep the flow of your presentation going, Paul.
Sure. I think I can get to the recommendations portion of this and move it along as quick as I can. The first recommendation on here is review and update the job descriptions for beach patrol supervisor and beach patrol employees. The job descriptions I currently have are need to be updated, so I'm going to be putting that together and making recommendations through the town administrator and Lisa and getting that squared away. Review and update standard operating procedures as we've done as a whole with the fire department since I've been here. Now, after the first of the year is going to be a good time for further review of that. Based off those job descriptions that we update and review, standard operating procedures for all those different types of activities on the beach strand in the summer. So that will be happening relatively soon as well. Expand and further develop the beach patrol training program. One of the challenges Chief Childers told me about was when we hire the beach patrol seasonal employees, we hire them late, right before the season's starting. So we didn't do much training ahead of time. I want to try to get a hold of that training, improve the training, and get it completed a bit earlier, so everybody's up to speed.
Well, I'd just like to recommend that. That's a good idea to start it early, but they also start them early working the weekends when it starts to get crowded in late April and May, before the season hits. Last year, a lot of guys went out the first day the
Right.
beach started, and they weren't ready to go. They didn't know the rules quite well. They didn't know the regulations. So if you could do it, start a little early and just work them on the weekends, I don't think this council would have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the challenges that I gathered from the start of the season last year, and I think we can improve that for sure. The next thing here, consider beach patrol staffing Memorial Day to Labor Day. I know on the first page of this report, the direction given last year was staffing May 1 through September 9. I guess, and your comments about, weekend staffings in April.
Even October, because it's very busy in October.
I can certainly take all those things into consideration as we're getting the program up and running this year.
Please do.
Paul,
Yeah.
real quick, with the staffing issues of the time frame and being seasonal employees, how many do we rely on to be off in the summer but work the rest of the year? Is it feasible to have them in April and October? I mean, do you know?
Restate that out, Deland.
Basically, the people we're hiring, are they able to work part-time jobs from April to October, or are they just really seasonal just for the summer months?
Well, I think there potentially is a couple different types of people that we hire. The college kids or the high school kids that are looking for a summer job potentially is one. I think some of the seasoned volunteer firefighters that we have now, they're here, they could be here more around the clock and maybe be helping us out in those early and late time periods. Also, what we look at doing by putting a beach patrol supervisor in place to manage some of that stuff front end and late end, so Deputy Chief Childers isn't spending 20 hours a week on the beach. I think that's going to be an important part of our staffing matrix to improve things. Some of the live-in things that I have in my mind that I'm thinking about, I think helps us at a different time of that beach patrol season. So, yeah, we're going to get that squared away with multiple options. I think it's a combination of people and types of people that can help us make it better staffed and robust program. Next. I've talked to Chief Claymore, I've talked to Mr. Graham about the number of times in and out of the beach access that we have, and it's multiple times a day. Sometimes the gate access slows us down because of the padlock, if there's an issue with the padlock. So not only for maintenance operations, but life safety, getting people on and off the beach quickly. We've already started looking at trying to find an automatic gate access to allow that access in and out quicker. I don't have any cost figures for you. I think that's going to be a budget discussion in the months to come. But I think, and Chief Claymore, if he wanted to join with me on this, I think it would provide staff, police, rescuers a better access point and to get in and out
Can we
quicker.
just leave that gate open with a sign, authorized vehicles only? I mean, how many people are gonna drive on the beach? They know they can't go on the beach.
No, a lot of people who drive on the beach, a lot of North Carolina beaches up north allow you to drive all over the
I'm just
beach.
saying, if you put signs, authorized people only.
And then we're gonna have to get cop cars out there to stop them. I mean, that's gonna be the solution right there, is to pull them over and pull them out. So it's, I would highly recommend y'all don't leave that gate open all the time.
That's all.
I also had several discussions with Chief Claymore about having some of the challenges in the early morning hours, and their shift changes at 6 a.m. Maybe we can have a police officer before they leave shift at 6 a.m. drive the Strand, and then another one, 7:30ish or 7 o'clock as they're switching shifts to provide some presence and another town staff member to help with any issues as we get the day started on the beach and the beach patrol. And Chief Claymore said we can probably make that happen easily. The next thing that Chief Claymore and I also talked about is beach patrol. Several times communications and talking to law enforcement was a challenge. When they needed law enforcement on the beach, they had some problems with radio channels, law enforcement being able to talk to beach patrol. So sometimes there was multiple parties involved with getting beach patrol connected with law enforcement on the street. Sometimes it had to go all the way through the communication center in Bolivia. Sometimes it went through phone calls, through the firehouse, to the police department. So we've already started developing some things to improve that radio communication. I don't think that's going to be an issue, and we'll get it squared away. Similar to what we kind of just cleaned some things up with talking to our neighbors in South Carolina. I think we're going to have the capabilities to improve that pretty quickly.
Real quick, if I could ask you, Chief, also, are we gonna have the ability this year to cover Bird Island like we did last year?
Yeah, that's the mutual aid agreement we have is up here to 3
3
years.
years, thanks.
The last recommendation, actually I want to speak on one other thing besides this last recommendation, but ensure signage is clear and updated to the town ordinances. I think that's key to, for us, setting clear expectations to what the town expects, what council expects, and then allowing beach patrol to be fair and consistent with those expectations, and then holding people accountable. So with all the ordinances as we review them, and I'd certainly appreciate any action that we can make as early in the season as we can, so we can get proper signage and notification out to people is going to benefit, I think, everybody that lives here and the visitors, and help beach patrol with code enforcement. The other thing I've also already directed, I'm a big community risk reduction type person, and that's not only for our residents but our visitors as well. And some of the risks on the beach, they're multiple, with rip currents and heat exhaustion and jellyfish stings, all of that type of stuff. So I've directed some of the firefighters and the lieutenant in charge of community risk reduction to start looking at some of this stuff and what we can do to help inform and reduce the risk to even the tourists who come from Ohio and New Jersey and New York and Texas and come to the beach but don't know some of these things. So hopefully on the front end we reduce the risk and some of the instances of needed rescue on the front end before they even happen. So we're working on that as well. And that's all I have for now, unless anybody has any specific questions.
Councilor Judd? Sure. Charlie?
The beach patrol and everything that goes along with it, that's funded by our occupancy tax,
Yeah, the accommodation.
accommodation tax. Just as a thought, maybe the life-saving devices would also be covered by. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
There's one area I'd like you to expand upon. I like all your recommendations, and you've got a good work plan ahead that'll keep you quite busy to do all of these things. Some of your ideas, the beach patrol supervisor. You know, that seems to be where Deputy Chief Childress keeps getting called in, is kind of to perform that function. So what are you thinking about in terms of how to address that issue?
We have the job description that is there for a beach patrol supervisor. We got to do a little work and revise that. And then based off of that job description, do we look at hiring, are we able to recruit somebody to fill that role just for the summer? Is it somebody that we detail to the beach for the summer to, you know, in the past, there's been some firemen that got detailed to be supervisors at different times. That's not ideal to me, because I want to try to keep firefighters on the truck and also staff the beach. So, because the challenge, we got to try to staff both. So, trying to recruit that supervisor from maybe some of the staff that worked last year or the last couple of years that's familiar with operations and town ordinances, I think would be a good opportunity. Do we look at some more community risk reduction, community paramedicine component to that supervisor position in the future and as the budget allows? Maybe. So I think it's evolving at this point, and time will give us a clearer vision here in the next couple of months.
One of your clear deadlines is going to be around the budget process
Mhm.
in terms of
Absolutely.
clarifying what your ideas are and requirements. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you very much, Paul. It's very helpful. Okay, well, I would like a little bit of guidance from council. On our agenda, we still have cabanas and state medical coverage, public comments, and then a closed session for council members with up to 3 items. We've been here almost 4.5 hours.
Mr. Mayor, I don't mind tabling, the cabana discussion, the state medical coverage. I don't have any, objection to table those until the meetings in January.
I would just like, I'd like to make a motion on the cabana. Can I do that, Mayor? To,
I think we should discuss cabanas.
if you want to discuss that, I think we've discussed it all day today and
Yeah.
last 3 years, but I'd like to make a motion on today and not push it to January 7th meeting.
All right, well, this is just an informal discussion right now. If it's your will to discuss cabanas today, that's fine. I'm just giving you an opportunity to tell me that it's not your will, if that's the case.
Tabling the rest of them, I have no problem doing that, because it's been a long meeting. We still have closed session,
Well-
public comment.
Yeah, I don't mind tabling until January. I don't think the directors have a very heavy schedule on the first meeting.
Well, we do,
Knowing cabanas is a very emotional issue, and knowing that it'll probably be defeated. But I just want to ask a question.
well, before you
Are we
get,
going to discuss it
before
or
you get
not?
to your question, let's make sure that I've got clear guidance here. Are we going to discuss cabanas today, not discuss state medical coverage today, give a chance for public comments, and then go into closed session? Is that what I'm hearing?
And
Yes.
Yes.
with
It-
respect to closed session, I mean, I'm here today, as I understood it, primarily for the cabana stuff, whatever came of it. But for purposes of the closed session and speaking to you, Mayor, and speaking with Lisa and Hiram, I'm not sure there's any need for my participation for what it's worth in the closed session today. I think January 7th, January 15th, those are going to be very likely. But what I understand could have been covered in closed session may not be actually happening today, and I don't have anything really to report. Just for everyone's benefit, for whatever you decide that you want to do.
I think that's accurate.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Jan?
couldn't we also table, where is it? The state medical coverage?
Yeah, I
Oh, you
mentioned
did?
that.
Oh, okay.
I
We're
mentioned
tabling
that, Jim.
both of those.
Yeah,
We made it, we've all agreed on that, right, John?
I'm not sure what you mean by both.
Table it.
Both Cabanas and state medical
No,
coverage.
I thought the will was to discuss Cabanas today,
Oh, okay.
but to table state medical coverage.
Yes. And what Brady just said, do we need for a closed session?
Yes.
we need the closed session to discuss with Hiram that the identified property.
Okay,
Y'all also have a person.
Well, there's a hiring issue also
okay, so let's.
there, but I don't think those are issues
So the mayor, can we have
that will now
discussions?
require your,
Can we have discussion on the
Not at
Cabana?
this juncture, right. But what I understand, at this juncture, not requiring my participation in a
Right.
closed session.
That's correct.
You're gonna stay for the Cabanas?
I'm staying for the Cabanas. I'll stay for the closed session if you wish. I'm at the pleasure of council. But
no, I think that's a correct reading. All right, so let's move to the Cabanas issue. It starts on page 21 in your packet. And this is an item from Mr. Serrato.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report that you have attached is primarily, it's been reported. It is public record. Now, we've had this problem for the past 10, 11 years. It has been reduced to an emotional level. We have, in my opinion, operational issues that we've had each year. Simply, other beaches have canceled cabanas for the same reasons why we continue to discuss them.
Mr. Schroeder,
you've got to hold it.
mic to the mouth. Is that me?
Yes,
No,
sir.
but you gotta talk into it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, buddy. Every other town has canceled cabanas because of the same reason.
You've got to hold it to your mouth.
Maybe,
You keep drifting away and it's causing.
that's why you need one of those wraparound. Well, anywho, can you hear me now? Other beaches have canceled cabanas for the same operational issues that we have. Why are you waving your hands?
I'm sitting here, I'm
Okay.
listening to you.
All right, thank
You don't
you.
question me, okay?
Thank you.
Mayor does.
And this has been, succinctly, this is a conundrum. Every issue that we've attempted to resolve creates another problem. And I would dare to ask the fire department and the police chief that if this town did not have cabanas, their operational issues would be, to me, considerably reduced. The crowding on the beach is caused by day trippers with cabanas. They rent properties in other towns. We have cabanas, they come here. It's a magnet, and it's a magnet for operational cost. It's a magnet. It's create congestion on the beach. Main Street is that my mic?
No.
Main Street is congested. There's parking on both sides. It's a safety hazard. I just want to ask one question. Why are cabanas so necessary? Why Why do we put up with this each year? Last year, I wasn't here in August. There was an ordinance in the middle of the summer to ban commercial cabanas. If I'm gonna rent a house at the beach, maybe, why wouldn't it be just feasible for me to call a cabana company, erect my cabana, I'm renting a house, it's costing me $8,000 a week, I'd like to have a cabana for a week. There's both sides of this issue that have never been addressed. The
All right.
only, well, Mr. Mayor, I just want to say one other thing. The only question that I have is, why do we allow cabanas? I don't want the staff to answer that question. I want the council to answer that question, because this, at some point, it has to get resolved.
Well, Rich, I want to inject a couple of things here. One of the comments that is often made is that other beach communities have eliminated cabanas. I was curious about that, and I looked at 34 beach communities, starting in Delaware and moving down through Georgia, identifying beach communities that I think are similar to Sunset Beach. Of the 34, 31 permit cabanas. The 3 exceptions are our closest neighbors. Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach both allow cabanas in the off-season, but not during the season, and OIB does not permit cabanas at any time of the year. So, just so that the record's straight, Sunset Beach can do what it wants, but the situation is that other beach communities, most other beach communities do allow cabanas. I don't know if at this point we need to go back through all of the reasons to have cabanas. My own view is there are very good reasons to have cabanas, and there are very good reasons not to have cabanas. And I think that's probably what's most responsible for the inability of council over the years to make one final decision. I think the reasons for and against have been put on the table, and we can take lots of time to talk about those today, but I'm not sure if identifying those again is what will really move us forward.
Mayor, can I say?
Let's get the rest of council in here, and Mark, if you have a comment.
Well, I have more
get
than
us
a
started.
comment. I'd like to make a motion to ban commercial private vendors from erecting cabanas on Sunset Beach for the year of 2019 and 20.
Is there a second?
What about private?
Private homeowners were allowed to erect cabanas. Just
Second.
commercial private vendors only. Got a second?
Second.
Yeah, Mark, would you read the
I would
the
like
motion again?
Sunset Beach to ban commercial and private vendors for erecting cabanas on Sunset Beach.
You said commercial and private.
No, I'm sorry, commercial private vendors.
May I
Yes, sir.
weigh in? And I don't have the ordinance in front of me that we worked so hard on with the chief and myself and Hiram, and Lisa, council. But I believe the motion you're seeking to have a vote on is what the ordinance already says.
Yes.
Right.
So the motion is not moving the needle on what the current situation is and what the current ordinance is addressing. Your motion is restating what's already in place as of the August 2018 ordinance amending chapter 95.
Right.
I mean, your motion is repeating what is already in place right now.
Right.
So
why-
can I
Mr. Mayor?
word it, Grady, that my motion is to keep what we have and not to change?
Was there a sunset clause on this?
No,
So
it's
why?
not a necessary motion.
It is an ordinance that is on the books and has no sunset clause.
I'll take my motion back and we'll,
Yeah.
Mark, yeah, I would just I'll make a motion that we continue to allow private, non-commercial,
I think that's what it says.
That's already in the ordinance.
right?
This is already addressed in the current ordinance. Well, there's the, I'm not trying to say anything about whether it's being followed or whether it's being enforced. I feel fairly certain that everyone up here and both the chief sitting over there knew that enforcement was going to be the issue. And I believe I'm on the record as saying, no matter what regulations you pass, absent a prohibition on cabanas, you're going to have enforcement issues. There's always going to be special facts and circumstances and unique situations. There's going to be the gray areas. And you're going to have your chief and personnel affiliated with both chiefs trying to discern what is and is not a violation of the code. I mean, there's not every situation is going to be the same.
Mr. Mayor?
Jan?
Mr. Mayor,
No, excuse me, Rich. Janice.
There, as the gentleman that spoke to us, there have been a number of devices, new devices for shelter on the beach that have come on the market. And I've seen the one that the gentleman spoke about. I've also seen one that is a center pole shaped like a cabana and anchored similar to a cabana, but it's very lightweight, and it can be carried by one person. Very easy to install. I sent this video. It's a video of a girl in a bikini setting up this umbrella, and I sent it to a few folks, and they didn't see the umbrella. They only saw the girl in the bikini. But but there are things coming on the market that are going to eliminate this use of cabanas, and it's going to be more friendly for both the beaches and the beach goers to use. So I would like to make a motion that we ban the cabanas that we describe as cabanas right now, with a start date of September 2019.
So let me weigh in on that. The new age shading devices you're speaking of are defined in the current ordinance as coming under the definition of cabanas. The ordinance says no tents, cabanas, shading devices, or canopies, parens, collectively cabanas, close parens. So we went through the care. I believe there's even somewhere in here where there's a single pole feature that we said is not
Right.
a cabana.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's on
That's
there.
the girl with the
If
bikini.
it's a monopole device.
It's a monopole device, but it's my understanding that you've got tie lines that are anchored down, whether it be sand. I've seen them with little pockets of sand that the owners put sand in, acts as weights on this lightweight.
The one John showed has the weights with the sand.
So if you're wanting to now carve out certain shading devices as not being within the definition of cabanas to address the new age stuff, then that would need to be something that has to be retooled in the ordinance.
Well, can I make a motion that we retool it to accept that and eliminate these humongous cabanas?
You've got a limitation already on the footprints of them. No larger than 12 foot by 12 foot in overall footprint size, and then they've got to be separated from other cabanas or recreational items by a minimum of 10 feet. So I would need direction, some clear direction on how the Shabumi tent isn't, how that one's acceptable versus some other sort of shading device, so that I can try and cobble together a meaningful code provision that you are seeking to
I think that
achieve.
we have in books is fine.
Mr.
We don't need to change that. What we need to change is upcoming new inventions can be looked at by this council. I have no problems with that with Jan, but that's basically what we agreed upon in August, and that's what I think three of us council people right now agree on.
But we're also having problems with it.
We came in very late in the season. It was a trying time. I'm sure this year both chiefs will do a much better job.
John?
We have an ordinance that permits cabanas and other shading devices, as Mr. Richardson has pointed out. And so we don't really need to change that unless we want to absolutely ban cabanas. If we have a new type of shading device come out, it falls within our ordinance, and if people want to use them, they can. Until such time that we find from experience that we have an objection to those for some reason or other. But right now, the new shading device, there's room for other technologies to come in, and the cabanas all fall within our ordinance. So the point is, we don't need to do anything, just drop it off the agenda and move on.
I agree.
Just so that we're basing this on accuracy, I thought the Shibumi was an interesting device and has potential, but it does not fit our ordinance. If I'm not mistaken, it has a footprint of something like 10 by 17, plus it has a sand anchor outside the footprint. So it would not even come close to fitting within a 12 by 12 footprint. I don't know if, are there others that are
there
available?
smaller ones?
John, is there smaller ones than that?
I believe they have one product right now, just one side. How much you bend that pole is that shade. And it's only shaded when the wind has blown it to create that shade.
And the size of that is
But
what,
a
John?
guideline on the footprint, what's the footprint of a straight line? On a straight pole, I don't know what the footprint is. It is the pole.
Mhm.
You have to have some way of measuring
Yeah.
to offset the wind in.
I thought in that advertisement it identified 10 by 17 when
No,
the
he did.
netting or whatever the
Yeah.
tarp was extended.
When it's fully done. And I asked him, he said you could shorten it by bending it harder, but there's a point where you don't bend it anymore.
But these,
Not from the company. Yeah.
these devices can be put up by one person. It's very lightweight.
Less than 4 pounds.
Right.
Carry bag is the weight.
Right.
Well, right now, I think our agreement should be that we're going to keep the ordinance we have, and we'll look at new products. We put that on January 7th, and let's go to a closed session meeting. We've been here for 5 hours. You know, let's keep the ordinance we have. If we want to look at new devices down the road, we will do that. The council has the right to do that. But right now, let's get to closed session.
Should we make a motion to keep the new ordinance, keep the current ordinance?
Do we have to do that,
I
Grady?
don't think
No.
that's necessary.
Okay.
It's not necessary.
Okay.
To do. Now, we still have a couple of other things to do before closed session.
Look what I'm doing.
But
Disposition.
is that acceptable to everyone to,
Yeah, yeah.
that at least for the time being, we're going to stick with what we have now? But we are still open to exploring other options as they become available.
As long as we understand that cabanas are permitted within our regulations on the beach for this coming season.
By private citizens.
If they're done in accordance
In
with the
accordance
code.
with our
It's
code,
already-
which is,
Already in the ordinance.
which is in the ordinance, okay?
All right. Gosh, you folks have hung in there. We do have one more opportunity for public comments. Do any of you have such a comment that you would like to make?
Directed.
All right. I don't think there's anything that I have regarding disposition of directives that needs to be done today. Does anyone else have anything they would?
No?
Just, are we going to add the parking, the overall view of parking as, I don't say it should be done, we should set a date for it, but
Put it on the
will
agenda.
it be added to the,
Yes.
okay,
Go ahead, Lisa.
just so it's added?
Go
You already said you wanted to add it, we're gonna add it.
Okay, thank you.
What I have that you've added is I've given you all the RFP for the lighting, the proposals that we received. So that'll be on for January 7th, unless you want it moved to another date.
Should we discuss that during budget time? 'Cause it's nearly $100,000.
Rich,
Isn't that
You've got to direct staff as to what you want us to do with them. Now, if you delay it to the budget, that's your prerogative, but you
But
still
the
need
idea
to
is to do
direct
that
staff.
in the January meeting, we discuss it and figure out what we want to do, whether we want
Right.
to delay or whatever. Okay.
Right.
on
Then,
the 7th,
the legal review from Grady regarding the parking of, town purchasing property, legality,
That's
the
on the
parking solutions that Jan wanted added, and the state, medical coverage are the things that I've captured during this meeting.
All right, the
There was-
state medical coverage would go to the 7th, or beyond the 7th.
Right.
Grady's section.
Is the
will be on
15th.
15th.
And Jan's doesn't have a date.
Well, let's put it on, let's tentatively put it on the first meeting in February.
February,
how
the
about
second meeting in February is normally your planning meeting,
Okay.
when council gives staff direction of projects you want us to look into for your budgeting process.
Mr. Mayor, how about the second week in January, which is mostly a working,
Yes, and that would give a little longer
Mm.
interval between. Grady?
And I think I also was instructed to look into the offshore drilling lawsuit. And I can report on that at the 15th.
Okay.
And I can also, by that date, have something to report regarding pending litigation.
Jan, help me out. Is the exit interview, where is the status of that? Was that ever resolved, or?
I think they
We,
already do it.
we institute exit interviews. We already institute exit interviews. That was decided the last time we discussed this, is we already conduct exit interviews.
But we cannot force people to do it.
You cannot force people to do it. You cannot make them sign that paper, fill out the paper, or do it. So, but we do give them the opportunity to do an exit interview. 15.
All right, if that satisfies council, then I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
A
Public
motion to go
hearing.
into closed session, please.
Second.
The public hearing,
Comments?
did we give a chance for that?
I thought we did.
I don't know. Did we? All right.
Um,
Thank you.